Toastmasters and guests. Stephanie.
Good evening.
Stephanie Beasley. This evening we're going to be talking, pardon me in just a moment, as I was looking at, and I should be looking at all of y'all's lovely faces. I don't want to be attached to the screen, I want to detach from the matrix. Don't all of y'all?
Yeah.
Well, tonight we're going to be talking about preparation and practice. And this is out of the Better Speaker series, as Peggy had already mentioned, and we'll go ahead and get on to it. Preparation and practice leads to excellence. I want to become familiar with a couple of key areas or items. Where your lectern and audience is located, your microphone usage, room conditions, and visual aids. Does it really look like I'm reading straight off the thing?
No.
It does, doesn't it?
Yes.
Come on, be honest.
Yeah.
Be honest, you Toastmasters.
Yes.
A little bit, yes.
Okay. Well, I can't help it. Now that we're over with that. The lectern and audience location. Where is your speaking area? Where are you going to be speaking from? You want to be familiar with this area prior to going up and giving your presentation. So if it's an area like this, somewhere even keel, and you're pretty much looking level with everyone, you want to notice how far you can go to your left, how far you can go to your right. Are you going to be standing on a red dot? Is this a TED Talk? You can only talk in the red dot. I haven't seen anybody move outside of the red dot yet. And so, along with that, when you're looking at your speaking area, you want to make sure that you're comfortable with it and you know the entire area. So go and preview it beforehand, especially if this is an area where you've never given a speech before. Second, what is the audience configuration? Sometimes you have a workshop that's going on, so it depends on what type of presentation you're doing. If you're doing a 15 or 20-minute presentation like this, maybe it doesn't have tables and chairs. Maybe it's just chairs, maybe it's standing room only. But if you're doing a longer, where it's an all-day event, or something where it's actually 2 or 3 days, you could have an audience configuration where they do have tables and chairs. It could be in a U-shape type format. It could be in an L, kind of half or half of a square type format as well. And you want to know that so that you're able to communicate with the audience. And knowing the speaking area and how the audience is going to be configured will allow you to utilize the stage to connect with people, or connect with Peggy so I can step back here, but at the same time move to the right as well. So knowing the entire audience of where they're at and how it's going to be set up, and knowing that beforehand. Next is the staging location or platform or steps. A lot of us have been to the Audie Murphy area where we've seen presentations done for the contest. And I've seen before where people aren't aware that where they need to go, where they need to get up on the steps. I've seen people go to the right-hand side when they need to be going up on the left. That should be all done prior. It's my recommendation that you walk the steps and that you know exactly how many steps, or if there's a cord or a cable or something that's taped on the ground that you need to step over and be aware of. Or you might be coming from behind out of the curtains. And if that's going to be the case, where's your staging area? So you need to kind of know those things. Ramps, steps, if you're going to be coming out of the curtains, whatever the case may be. The next thing you want to become familiar with is microphone. And I actually have a lot to say on this one. When you have a microphone, there's typically two that you're going to use. You're going to use either the standard one where you're going to hold it and you just turn it on. You need to know how it works and how to utilize it. It should just be to flip it on. Don't flip it on, hit it right when you're about to begin and say, testing, does this work? Let me start my presentation now. That's not what you want to be doing. You need to be doing a test run prior to that. You need to know how far you need to hold the microphone from your lips. A lot of times people will begin speaking just as so, and then all of a sudden they pull it back a couple of inches and you can't hear it. And the people in the back of the room can't even hear what you're saying, only the front people, and you're not even aware. You need to be exact. If it's 3 inches, 4 inches, and you need to have that set in your mind. And sometimes what we do is we talk with our hands, especially in Toastmasters. So there could be times when you say something and then you can come and then drop back. But don't be talking and then have the mic way out here or down here or something like that, which I've seen done before, and only a certain few people can actually hear. Now the next microphone is like the lavalier or lapel type microphone that's wireless, and you see people that have that hooked up. My suggestion is that you know how to work this communication device for yourself. Don't have somebody put it on you and then not know how it works or how to turn it on. You need to know how it works and operates. Give it a test run as well. And you'll do this with your other microphone, your handheld, by having somebody far out in the audience. So if you're talking to a group of 100 plus people, which I know you can barely see that, but 100 plus people, it's probably going to be pretty deep. How far back? It just depends. You need to have somebody, if you can, prior to when you're working with your microphone, go back in the corner, the left-hand corner on my left and my right-hand corner, and just check the acoustics, see if they can actually hear you, and that way you'll know that your microphones are working well for you. The next is your audience age. Now this one is kind of tricky because there aren't many other details along with this. Age over 50. Well, we could just, I don't know what we're supposed to guess. I'm 41, so I don't know. I guess I'll figure it out when I'm 50. I don't know. We'll see. But what I think that it is that it's hearing. And that as you get older, your hearing starts to wane. And so if you if you have an audience, is my microphone working? And that might be something else you might need to do with your microphone as well. If you do have audience participation where it's 50 years old and above, that may be something where you need to tweak that microphone up just a tad. But you want to try to get everybody as close to you as possible. If they are a little bit older, it will just help with the acoustics and everybody will be able to hear a little bit better. Poor acoustics. Sometimes you're in a room that has glass. Off the one side, you have a folding collapsible wall on another. It's extremely deep, and you only have so many people, which can create poor acoustics based on where the speakers are placed. If it's not that deep of a room, it may come back a little bit better and bounce back. But when you have your tester out in the audience, seeing if they're able to hear you on the microphone okay, they're going to be looking for these poor conditions as well. When you spot these poor conditions, what you'll do is you'll have that, hopefully that person and that helper escort people to a better hearing area if the seating is available. So if you haven't sold out the room, have them move them over, and all they have to do is say, listen, the acoustics are a little poor right here. If you could just move over here, we think you'd be able to hear a little bit better. One of the main reasons for that is just the communication between you and the audience. You don't want to lose it throughout your presentation. And to where they hear something and they're like, what was that? And all of a sudden they're 2 steps back trying to put together what you said on point A and point B because they missed something in the middle, and then you're on to another point. And you kind of lost that connection. So try to help with that if you can. Voice strain. When working with microphones, hopefully this won't happen, but it can happen if you're talking for an extended period of time. If you're going to talk for half of a day or an entire day, or it could be a three weekend or weekend type thing seminar, you don't want to be talking so much that you're talking and straining your voice that by the end of it you sound like this and nobody can really understand you. You want to be talking with the same even tone for as much of it as you can. You need to use voice inflection, but probably not quite as much if you're going to have extended talks. If you're also going to have extended talks, I would suggest working in some questions for the audience. So take your 15 or 20 minutes, maybe like what I'm doing now, and then take that time to ask the audience 1 or 2 questions. This gives you a moment to pause, and then you can go for another 10 or 15 minutes, ask another question or 2, and then step back and go right back into it. The next thing I want to become familiar with is the room conditions. What's the temperature like? You ever been in a hot room before? You ever felt like you were going to bake out and slide straight out of the seat? You were going to wheelbarrow you out? You're like, oh my goodness, will this be over soon? If you're going to have 100 plus people in a room, it's going to get hot. I would suggest setting the temperature at about 67. And then some of the other things that I would also be interested in is, do we have windows? Are we in a high rise? How is the sun coming across? Am I going to be presenting at 2 o'clock in the afternoon when the sun is going to be beaming through? If so, I want to know that ahead of time so that right at lunch, I drop the temperature down to 65 and start cooling it off. Those are things to just know ahead of time. That's all about being prepared. I think it's cold in here. They might have it at 64. What? Talk to them about that. Appropriate lighting. When I think about appropriate lighting, this would not be the best circumstance.
Yes.
But more about appropriate lighting is that if there's a light, depending on how the light's configured, and why I'm looking up is, if there's a light that is going to beam and shoot you in the eye because you've been walking your staging area and you know that, oh, wow, I catch a glare there. You don't want to be walking along, I'm going to walk in front of the screen here and then go, you just caught a light, and what happened? I just broke communication with the audience. Because the light glare, because I wasn't familiar with it and I wasn't aware of it, so it totally caught me off guard. You don't want that to happen. So if you have a light that's catching you in the eye, you want to be able to walk and connect with your audience and then skip from where the light is to the next person on the other side, come back, stand and position yourself, and come right back to the people that you missed that were in that focus of the light as you were walking this way. That's what I think of when I think about appropriate lighting. I think more about what is going to constrain me, or if there's maybe windows and it's going to be sunny, there are going to be a bunch of glares and that type of thing. Discreet entry for latecomers. If you paid $1,000 and you're coming and you're late, you're making it inside of there. If we're in a speech contest, nobody's getting inside, right? But if you're doing a seminar, somebody's going to come in late. This is another thing about distractions. Just like the lighting, it's kind of like a distraction if you're not aware of it for appropriate lighting. You want to know where the sound's going to come from. So if I'm talking to Santina and I'm looking off to the right hand or your left hand side of the audience, and I hear something from the left hand side of me, I'll know that that's the latecomer's door. And I don't need to react to that door. I don't need to be talking with you and go, what was that? To myself up here on stage while everybody's watching me, and then what happened? I just disconnected from the audience again. And that we don't want to have. Are you going to be competing with outside noise? Have you ever been in a conference room before? Or an IHOP where they're banging on the pipes? I was laughing right before I came up here. I was like, I wonder if they're going to do that the whole time. That would be awesome. I'll have it on video. But really, have you been in a conference room at a hotel and you're in one pod basically, and the pod next to you is having the annual sales meeting, and they're woohoo! The sales, and I did this, and I got the gold watch and $20,000 bonus, and they're freaking out. They're having drinks and they're having a great, loud, clapping, roaring time. You just want to talk to your concierge first and find out who's on my left, who's on my right. Am I going to be competing with noise? I noticed there's some railroad tracks outside the window. Is there a train that's going to be coming by? Or if you're in Chicago, maybe it's the L train. I don't know, is it the L train, Chicago people? Anyways, not familiar with the train that, anyways, I think it's called an L. I think so.
We've
I've heard the L.
It's elevated, that's what it's at, yeah.
That's right, it's the L. Excellent, never been to Chicago. Perfect. But are you going to be competing with that type of noise is the thing. Do you have railroad tracks outside, anything like that? You just want to know ahead of time so that you're prepared for it. If you know there's going to be a huge sales event on your left or your right, well, you can utilize that. Maybe you're talking to your folks, and you're like, do you hear those people over there? And you can play off of it. Well, they think they're doing great. How about we give them a woohoo over here too? Woohoo! There you go. Yeah. That was a weak woohoo. Let's try that again. Woohoo! Right, that's what I'm talking about. instructors out there. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Visual aids. This is a big one. I've seen this a lot. You seen this one?
Yep.
Where about half the people can see? Y'all can see maybe, right? But y'all can't. Or the other one where they're doing this. And they're reading their laptop. It's either hooked up the other way around, or whatever the case may be, but they're looking back. If you're utilizing visual aids and you have a good staging area, this is my recommendation. When you're looking back at the screen in your prep time before you begin to speak, get a little dotted sticker and stick it on the ground and know this is as far as you can go to your right-hand side. And you will walk straight over, nobody will see that sticker, and you'll stand right there, and you'll know everything over to the right is free game. You can walk up and down, and you will not be in the visual cue of the screen. The same thing with the left. As you move over to the left and you open up, you have all this free reign over here. And nobody will see those markers on the ground. Because what you don't want to do is do this. And then I'm disconnected again. And then look back to make sure that I'm out of the way of the screen. How does that feel? It doesn't feel right, like we lost connection there. We don't want that. Located where all can see, obviously we just kind of covered that. I went over it a little quickly. Is it appropriate to view for the entire audience? Sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. I've seen some where up in the corner they have just a portion you can't even read, and then they're trying to read it. It's so small. It needs to be appropriate for the audience. What I did today when I came in was I made sure, well, we all worked, I think 3 or 4 of us worked on this. I came and they worked and helped me. That's really what happened. I was like, hold my hand, please. And that's exactly what happened. And they hooked this up to be able to make sure that it's appropriate and it fits the size of the screen. Handout distribution. You ever been in a conference, and I'm sure you have, hey, we've got some handouts for you. And the communicator starts talking, let's say we're talking about real estate. I'm gonna send you a leaflet on a handout. Can you hand these out for me? One for the buyer, one for the seller, and one for a for sale by owner. Can you pass these out over here? During this entire time, we are breaking our concentration and communication with the audience. And then the communicator continues to talk while 3/4, if not more, don't even have the paperwork in their hand. And by the time they get the paperwork in their hand, he's already, or she is already on to another subject. And they don't have an opportunity, and so they get the information and they're trying to flip through it, and it's complete distraction. If you have handout distribution, just put it on every seat between a break. And then that way they can pick them up. And then all you have to say is, as you can see, you have some handouts. The first one is on working with buyers. The second one is working with sellers. The last one is working with for sale by owners. And it makes it a whole lot easier and you stay connected. Rehearsing your speech. Practice ideas and not words. I learned this one the hard way. Second speech I did, I tried to memorize every word. I must have did that speech 180 times, and I could not memorize every word. And when I tried to, it came out horrible. And I think you were there, Al. It was very difficult. Having the idea of the concept of the main points, very much like the outline that's provided here, there's obviously a lot of things that I'm talking about and a lot of content that's not on the page and I'm not looking at anything. It's all about the idea. So I have the outline and be able to communicate from there, even if you're winging it at certain points, which I do a lot. Practice a mental draft. This is something that when I read this, it means while I'm driving in my car, I can practice.
Yep.
While I'm sitting in a doctor's office, I can practice segments of my speech. And that's why I want to have a mental rehearsal that continuously goes on. Finish each rehearsal session. Probably standing in the way of both of you all. Just talking about that. I need to learn from my own mistakes. Finish each rehearsal session. Now this is what I think about working all the way through an hour-long speech. If you've got certain portions of it locked in, the opening and let's say the close, or let's say it's a 7-minute speech. I don't think that you need to repeat the opening and the close over and over and over and over again. It would be like taking a nail and driving into the same board, saying, well, that nail didn't work and that nail didn't work. You don't need to do that. You just need to work on the transition parts and the parts that you need to work on the most. When I was a track runner, I needed to work on launching from the start position. It wasn't when I was 3/4 down the mile. That's not where I needed to work on all of it. And it was at the end. How do I push through and get that extra? But I needed to work on the beginning and the end of that. If you have your opening and your close to your speech, maybe you just need to work on the middle. Maybe don't work on it all. Don't tire your voice out. Improving your speech, add gradual, and then arrange for feedback. This kind of all goes together. Excuse me. We'll go back to. But arrange for feedback. In the audience, when you get there, ask 3 to 5 people to write down 3 or 5 things that they could help or that could help you perfect your speech. Give them your card and tell them to send you an email. And have them jot down a couple things. And then gradually integrate it. Don't lose your personality though. I used to get feedback and thought I had to apply it all. I got to apply everything that everybody's telling me. And some of it's contradictory. Because someone cancel each other out. I was like, oh, what do I do now? Smile too much, you don't smile enough. I'm lost. So, thank you. I did that one for you, Al. You want to have things that fit your personality. Because people will know if you're being fake. You just need to be authentic. I'm being authentic up here. This is just me. This is what you get. I can polish it and perfect it, and I can add things to it, but I can't change it completely because then I would lose myself. Extra considerations. When you have an introduction, let them, unlike the very great one I gave you today, Peppy, let the introduction be done by your MC. Have a wonderful introduction prepared. But when you come out, what you don't want to do is grab a microphone, hit it, and do a test and go, well, my name's Brian Swanson, and I've been in real estate for 10 years, and I've been investing for 5 years, and today we're gonna talk about real estate. That's a little bit of my background story. And, well, let's go ahead and get started. You want to have all that done with the rehearsal, and you want to come out and say, who wants to buy and sell property today? Do you want to make some extra money? Can I see a show of hands of people that want to put a little extra money in their pocket today? And the reason that you do this is the grabber. This is the attention. Right at the moment you walk out on stage, it's going to set the tone for the rest of it. For the rest of your talk. So you need to have a powerful opening. Don't do the introduction yourself, if you can. Prepare physically. I'm assuming you just need to walk a lot or give a lot of speeches. Have a mental rehearsal, work those out in your car, at free times when you have them, but continuously be working on them to perfect them. The conclusion, good luck is fortuitous. When preparation meets opportunity.
Thank you, Brian. Mr. Timer, may we have a moment?